Good morning. This is almost lunchtime. It's January 4th today. Boy, did that go quick. I'm going to try throwing some baking dishes today. Two or three variations on a basic baking dish, really. And you can make them in stacking or just individual, but we'll just try three for today. And introduce myself. I'm Vaughan Smith at westcoatbellpottery.ca in Nova Scotia on the eastern shore of Canada. All right, let's get set up here, and I'll see if I can give you a good angle at this so you can really see. You don't need to see my face, you can just see what my hands are doing. And oh, it should show you the outside. It's a grey day today, a little bit sort of at least it's not snowing. All right, so this is one of the bigger balls of clay, and this is my recycled clay. I actually will find stones in it and everything else. All right, so I've done a video on recycling my clay and whether it's worth it or not. You'll have to look for that. That would be about a year ago if you want to look for it, because it basically gives you the time and the actual dollar cents of whether it's worth recycling clay, and I've come to the conclusion I'll do it even though I don't earn much at all doing it. Probably isn't worth it. I'm probably working for minimum wage doing it. So now let's do this a little bit for you if you're a beginner. Okay, you've got a lump of clay and it's off center. All right, try set your wheel up so your elbow is against a wall like that and your arm cannot be moved by the ball of clay, which is going to bang into your hand over and over again, because a lot of people don't have the strength at first, and so you need to have something. And let me just show you this. My elbow can't be moved anymore, and just bringing my hand in with one hand, it pushes it way onto center. It's still off at the top because my hand on the top isn't there, but that will just show you don't even need that much strength. If your elbow is pushing against a wall behind, then you can actually put the piece in center. So if you don't have strength, try and set your wheel up against a sort of structure that can't be moved. And pile up a bunch of boxes of clay there if you want. If you don't have a wall next to your wheel, get sort of, I would say it takes about 4 or 5 to get that high, boxes of clay. Okay, so, but normally when you center, you do that. But it really helps if you get your left arm stuck in there. I also have a machine, not a machine, a mechanical device that's called a strong arm. I pulled my shoulder out years ago, a couple of years back, and I'll show a video on it at some point, because if you ever get an injury and you have trouble centering, putting the pressure on with your shoulders, I bought that device about $300-400 I think it was, and it really helped. Same principle with a solid thing behind your arm. Anyway, that's for future. Alright, so now putting a hole in. My left arm is solidly on my thigh and the wheel head. Well, on the actual wheel splash pan. Push down. Open up. Leaving a thicker bottom this time because we don't want it to be over thin. Keep getting the water. Now you can have wide baking dishes, you can have tall, narrow ones. There's no reason for any size particularly. If you want to hold a pint, a quart, or whatever, because I think they do baking dishes that hold different amounts for the recipes. Okay, now I use the rib, and I can feel a stone in there already. Let me see if I can feel it. Yeah, not bad. It's not super big, so I'm not going to worry about it. I actually have holes sometimes in my pots when they recycle clay when they come out of the kiln, because they may even have something as stupid as a rubber band that sort of got through the pug mill and it's in the clay, and you can feel it. In fact, I think I pulled one out yesterday. This little thing came out of a piece of clay, and it's a piece of rubber, and I'm not even sure where that came from. But in the winter when you got snow on your boots, you bring all sorts of crap into the studio on the bottom of your shoes. Okay, fingers to the right side now, so the clay's running through my fingers. Come to the top and don't thin the top because you want a thick top. Yeah, salt, gravel, snow on the bottom of the boots when you come in. I change my shoes now when I come into my studio so that I can avoid bringing too much stuff in. There you go, that's a decent height. That's about 2.5, 3 inches high, I would say. Then get your sponge to soak up the water. So it's not that hard to make a baking dish. You just got to judge the weight of the clay, I like the spiral in the center. Something friendly about that, I think. It's the universe in the bottom of every pot. Now the rim is important, and the bottom's important. I don't trim much on these. I just use a tool to push in right down there, just to give my wire somewhere to actually get underneath easily. And then just because of the glaze, you can do a variety of things on the rim, but if you just use the corner of your rib and just dig down, you'll make like a trough. So it's almost like a double lip. And that gives the top of your piece a different color in there to the edges, so you'll have an interesting rim on the top. You can also, if you want to, just use the rib on the outside to emphasize that thicker piece of clay on the top. So I just dug that underneath a little bit. And that's the simplest baking dish. I will put 2 handles either side of here, which I can show in another video. And there's your little rib. Okay, let's do a different one. I was mentioned that it's hard to hear me sometimes, so I'm trying to learn how to use iMovie so I can put my videos in there, and I notice it says increase volume by 400%, so I'll be shouting at you then. Alright. This is a bat I made 40 years ago. Well, going on 40. When would it have been? 10 plus 27, 37 years ago. These are just old plywood masonite type bats. And they've got dug out holes in them, but the clay fills it in. They still work. Every so often I will do a coat of varnish on these, but they last for a long time. And I got 32 of them out of a sheet of plywood back then. Probably paid less than $10 for the plywood back then. Okay, here we go again. Make sure it's down on the bat. And then, like I showed you, off center, elbow stuck into something solid. And the piece goes into center. So if your arm can't be moved, then basically you'll get it into center much easier. Put 2 hands on, and it will go into center on the top area too. And because this is recycled clay, it's always a good idea, if you're uncertain about your clay, to put hands and cone it. Put your thumb over the top so you don't get that hollow area developing. You can do a couple of those if you want. Stretching the clay and then pushing it back down. If there's anything inside the clay, it'll probably come to the surface and you'll feel it. So let's see what happens. Yeah, it's pretty good so far. I run my clay, it's not a de-airing pug mill that I have. I could get one if I wanted to, but I've never had problems with the regular pug mill. It actually had a de-airing pump with it when I bought it. It's a Venco, but I never used the de-airing element because I thought the filter that was in it it'd block up so easily, and I'd have to clear it out, and I was spending more time cleaning out my pug mill than actually pugging. So once I took the filter out, the little screen, and just use it as a pug mill without a de-airing ability, it works better. And I just run it through 3 times, and it goes through really fast. There you go, thicker bottom. And then fingertips opposite each other. And start coming up. As soon as it feels like it's dragging a little bit, let go slowly. Hopefully you're close to the top at that point. Put some water on the rim so you dribble right on the, goes down both sides. Same again, don't thin it too much. When you get to the top, let go slowly and then use your finger to give you that extra thick rim on the top. This would be for, I would say, as a baking dish for a couple of people. Bake a chili, put some cheese on it, put it under the broiler. Oh, nice, I'm getting hungry. There's the groove again, just so your wire can get through. And then, let's put the groove on the top actually. Yeah, I can probably just put that underneath there. So there's the extra thick lump at the top. It's like you've added a coil to the top of your pot. And then put this in as deep as you want, because it's going to gather glaze when you glaze it. And then just round it, smooth it. I also have these tools. Is that one wide enough? Yeah, it's kind of touch and go there. This is the one that Freddie Moretti made for me. It compresses the clay. He used a 3D printer to make those, I think. I have my own wooden one that I made years ago, and we used that. So you just have to contact Freddie if you want one of those. I don't know if he'll make you one or not. If you've got a 3D printer, he might tell you how to do it. Same idea as the leather, basically. There we go, smoothing and cleaning it out. Alright, now, that's the same as the other one. Didn't put the spiral in, let's go for that. I like to knock off the sharp point of the spiral that your finger leaves. And then you can actually, on this one, if you wanted to, just do that. You've got a slightly off square piece now. Now it's a square. It's got a kind of wavy edge to it and all that, so that's another baking dish. There's lots of ways you can do it. I sell baking dishes reasonably often. Make sure you get a clay body from your clay company that can take being put in and out of an oven. Alright. So that was a simple variation. Another bat. My glaze tests I'm going to do a video of later this week on Randy's Red. It's fascinating. I mean, it is looking, I've really got it the way it's supposed to be, but now I'm trying to do a video. It may not come out the way I want, but I thought a glaze too far. Sounds like a book. Anyway, so I'm pushing it beyond where I've got it. See what happens and all that. And it's Randy's Red, and you can find those under, I think it's Dante something, clay something. Anyway, he's done one on Randy's Red. I'm just trying to push it a little further. And I have one glaze, and it looks so far 6 different ways. Okay. Well, that's a bit of a nasty end to put on the surface, so that's a bit cleaner. So always make sure you don't trap any air down there. Yeah, Randy's Red for me has ranged from a matte black glaze to a brown glaze with variations in it. And the last firing I got it to be reddish. Well, actually I got 2 in-betweens where I was showing beginning red on the outside but red on the inside, and now I've got it red on the inside and the outside. And now I'm the firing that you can hear going up at the moment is actually double glazed and also firing much hotter. So we'll see. So I'm getting up to cone 7 I think at this point, but we'll see what it does. I think because the last piece was so nice, I'm not going to cone. Although I should do it to show you, I guess. So round off the top if you're going to cone. Both hands squeeze in and come up. And then if you've got enough water, just go back down again. Yeah, the clay feels good, no lumps. And then you go for center. Push down, continue if you get center really quick. Your arms should be rested on the splash pan brim and then on your thigh if you can. I have a stone on the floor, my legs are a bit short. Sometimes I sit my foot on top of the stone to push my thigh a bit higher. I can feel something now in the clay, but is it big enough to worry about? Let's see, let's get it smooth and I'll see what. If it's a rubber band again, I'll take it out. Yeah, when you're, throwing with recycled clay, you have to expect anything. But, people dug clay up. It's right there. What is it? It feels like it might be just a piece of clay. Pinhead. Stab many times. There's nothing there that's anything important. And then recompress and you can get rid of those pinholes. That's gone now. It was just a little air bubble, maybe. Alright. Wall of your pot. Pulling up. Go up again. Get a bit taller on this one. There was a bit more clay here. Flatten the rim. Put your groove in before you go to the next step, just so we can get through there. It's a bit taller so I can get my rib underneath there now. This is the length of a rib, so that's about 3 inches, I would say. Make your rim really smooth. Let's see, I felt something then. Can I see anything? Yeah, just there. What is that? Yep, just a little stone. Feels like maybe a splinter of wood. So I'm squaring off that again. And like I said, this is that tool. Freddie made several variations on this. This was a big one, so it's meant for really big, like planters. But you can just round off your rim instead of using a leather, because you lose the leather, you don't lose this. Cleaning up. Put the groove in. So any glaze you put on this pot is going to look darker in that groove. So it gives you this instant little circle of darker color on the glaze without really trying when you're dipping it in the glaze. Alright, so fingers to give you that little spiral if you want to do that. And dry it out again. And then I liked when I saw the other one, the idea of just kind of backwards and forwards with your finger knuckle, and then right opposite that one again. I'm trying to be symmetrical a little bit. Alright, so on this piece I can join a handle from there to there, or I could go along this side as well, but it gives me some different choices for variety. Alright, so that's simple, Let's do that over here. I'll do one more just to refresh, but I think you're getting the drift of it now. We'll do a tall one this time. Of course, the next stage after doing these is to make lids if you want to have a lid for a baking dish. And I did some baking dishes in my gas kiln before Christmas. And I won't be firing the gas kiln, I think, if the weather gets bad, but we might. This winter's mild so far. Okay. So, pugged clay again. Round off the bottom. The wheel head is sort of not wet, but sort of moist a little bit, so it won't slide when you throw it down. Just knock off the bumps, and like I said, keep your thumb on top and try this. Just see if you can try this and just see how easy it is. One hand, and the reason I know how to do this is because my friend Glyn Burton, when we were at school, broke his arm, and he tried throwing one-handed, and that's when we discovered doing that. Anyway, cone. Glyn has a jewelry workshop, glass actually, on, I think it's Guernsey, off the coast of England, between France and England. Not Jersey or Guernsey, anyway. Squish it down. If you're watching my videos from Ohio, I have a really good friend there who's a potter I mentioned before in another video called Mike Baum. So in Lebanon, Ohio. So check him out. You know, with all this, there's no craft fairs anymore, so if you're used to seeing these people at craft fairs, obviously you can't, but they're still there, they're still working, and be really appreciated if you live close to Lebanon, Ohio, to let your friends know to go buy some pots from Mike Baum. He's got a Facebook page, you can see what he makes really nice work, sort of in the Bernard Leach tradition from England, really nice simple pots that serve every function you would think of for everyday use. And another potter I know is, let's see, there's Jimmy Ulmer in Minnesota. You can look him up. So if you're local to Minnesota, that's a great potter to look up. Got really nice work. And then in Michigan, Jim Reinert in Owasso, Michigan. There's no craft fairs, so these people would probably really appreciate people turning up to buy some pots. We all have to, you know, do things differently because of the, you know, galleries are not open a lot of the time now, and so everybody's still there. Alright, so this one's tall. I'm going to push in a little bit with this rib. Alright, so that gave me that mark from the top of the rib there, and pull a bit of clay off. Try not to waste too much of your clay. So this is the tallest one of the bunch so far. And I've got that line, so I've got my outside edge determined already. And then push down for that groove in the middle. A little bit of clay flew off there. If you've got a gritty clay, you might well be advised to compress down a little bit, just in case you've got some grit coming through. These are different shaped tools. You see, Freddie made them different widths, so that was a good idea. Mine was just a straightforward width. Freddie Moretti's in Florida, sunny Florida. And he has a studio at his house, so that's another potter down there. That's called a shout out, I think. Alright, let's go put my groove in there again. Alright, so I'll do a little spiral. There you go. So we got another one. This one's going to have a lid. Remember I said lid? So now I need to measure it. So it depends on what kind of lid I want, of course, but I'm going to do one with a flange that will go down inside a little bit and hang over the top. So measure that. This is called a lid master. It's just a tool that will give you the inside dimensions and the outside dimension kind of thing. So let's put this aside. Let's find a bat that will fit. Set that and make sure you don't move your lid master once you've measured. It doesn't want to stay there. Alright. This has got some clay on the bottom side. These masonite bats can end up with a little bulge on one side. And so maybe before you put them down, it's good to notice that. Alright, so let's have a look now. You eyeball it. Yeah, that one did. So this is the way it goes on. Alright, and wet the bat again. You try to get it moist but not wet. Make sure it's clean. Now I'm not going to measure, but I'll rip a bit off because I think I've got way too much clay with this. It's a good guess. That's all I'm going to be able to do. Round it off. Something in the top of that piece of clay too. This looks like a little bit of brown soaked masonite. So I'm compressing in with my left hand to really and push back with the top hand. Get the clay dense as you can. Yep, I don't feel anything too much. The lid doesn't have to be really thick. You might compress a little bit with the rubber rib too, just to make sure. Alright, then I'm going to have a little go with the rib to see what I've got. Perfect, okay. Put some water there. Now I'm going to push up a little bit from the outside. And then push in with this tool to give myself a little shelf where the inside of that will, and then because I've changed it, it's going to be different now, but it's still close. And then push this underneath. I'm pushing out with my middle finger to increase the width, and I was pushing under with this tool to kind of give the outside piece there'll be like a wedge shape profile wise. I'll show you when I lift it up, but I'll clean it up. I'm probably just a fraction out, but we'll clean it up first, and then because I won't have much to change. Okay, this is the width from there to there of the hole. I'm probably a 1/4 of an inch out, so let's just go back now, measure. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay. The word that we like the most is perfect. So what the idea is this flat piece is going to fit on the top of that other rim. I felt something in the clay right on that rim too. Probably a stiff piece of clay in there maybe. Alright, so make sure I didn't change anything. Still perfect, okay. So this lid, let me lift it up and show you. We'll have a handle or an animal for a knob, or just a plain knob. I'm not sure what I'll do yet. Sometimes they pop off real easy. There you go. There you go. There you can see the actual profile there and all that. And let's clean my hands up a minute. Oh. Don't usually do this until the clay is actually a bit drier, but Let's see if I can tilt this up a bit. Okay, scary when you do that. See if I'm in the picture. And that will go right on top like that. Oh, it didn't stick. Good. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and see if I can tilt that up a bit. Okay, so it's westcoastbellpottery.ca, Nova Scotia, and Bourne Smith. You know, Happy New Year still. It's only four days in. I'll do a glaze later this week on those Randy's red glazes because it's really interesting. So this is how to put handles on the baking dishes, which I threw earlier today. I pulled, let me see, I got 18 baking dishes, so I pulled 36 handles. Let me just give you a little view of these. I just did a video on pulling handles, so there you go. And I cut them right next to each other so they're both the same size. And if you time this perfectly, you do not have to score, scratch, and all that palaver. So these are still very movable, bendable, and all I do, because they're sticky, the surface it's stiffened up enough, but it's still sticky. I place the handle. Let me see if I can get this so you can see it a bit easier. Right on there, and I sort of move it backwards and forwards until I feel like it's adhering a little bit. So it's just below the surface, so I want to be able to trim the bottom so I don't want the handle to stick over the top. And then with my finger in the middle, you take that and you bend it down until it's touching again, and I just give it a little wiggle with my thumb to actually make it stick. Take that off, put your other middle finger in, and then you do the same thing. You curve it down and squish it in so that it's touching, and then using just a little water on your finger. These are handles pulled like half an hour ago, so they're very soft, but they stiffen up, and the sort of moisture off the surface goes away, so they're not slippery to handle. Ha, there you go, a pun. And then you simply smudge them in, and you can use a decorative method with your fingertips. So my cat joined me. Every time I talk, he joins me. And then basically use a paintbrush to clean up your smudging, unless you're really trying to leave the fingerprints in. You can do that, that's quite acceptable. Pottery is one of those things where there's no rules. I mean, we do everything to kind of make it fun and all that. So you try to do things that quality wise you've got that, when you've got some personality in your piece, you know. But if you notice, I push the brush down to kind of get that join so that you don't see a crack in between the clay. All right, and then using the paintbrush, you simply backwards and forwards move it up and down to stretch your handle up just a touch, so it's a little easier to get your fingers underneath in there. It's simply something to catch the actual clay. Now, I know it's tough to make sure it's even, so what I do is I have a stick and I place it right at the top point where the handle is touching the other one, and I eyeball it across the center of the pot and just make a little mark on this point here, so I know I've got the same positioning, so they'll be square. And then this is when the clay is sticky, I simply move the handle backwards and forwards to let it get a tack. It's tacky, so and then it starts moving the piece. It's not slipping on the piece, it's stuck. And then put your thumb or your finger underneath and you push that down and bend it over so it actually adheres just about halfway down the piece. Same on this one. You push it in and then you turn it over to actually allow it to join. You've got the positioning right. And then you smudge it in. This is Morandi, named after a painter. Actually, I'm not sure if you call him a painter or a printmaker, because he did beautiful drawings and paintings that were mostly black and white. So you know we've got a joint here now. Paintbrush again. So Morandi, because he's black, that's why we call him Morandi, because he's black, just like the painter used to do a lot of etchings and paintings in black and white. Okay, just move the clay brush. This is a worn out paintbrush. There's not many bristles left on it, but it's just enough to get a bit of pull on the clay, and then smooth it, and then just open the handle up a little bit backwards and forwards with some water on the paintbrush to kind of give yourself a little hook underneath there to grab your fingers on. Now you can make handles big, you can make handles small. Remembering for me, what's important is that you can get your fingers underneath there when you're lifting it out of the oven easily, so it doesn't slip out of your hands. And a lot of my pieces have that little ball, so just a rough bit of clay. I make 2 little round balls and then place them in a sort of decorative sort of way. And you get your little tool. I'll bring this over. My tools are all here on a wheel cart, so everything is basically right at my hand. I can bring it right over. Put as many things in your studio on wheels as you can, and then everything's easy to move around. So there you go. And you got a little decorative touch on your. That's just something that's optional, basically. But it's all I do is I get 2 balls of clay, make 2 little round marbles, stick them in a place where I think they might be appealing. It actually helps the joint area, I think, as well, because it's actually, and with a stamp, if the clay is this soft, you want to make sure it's not going to stick on the piece of clay. So I brush it on my dusty trousers and pull it off. I always feel like that. If you're looking face on it, it looks like like a sad face or something. But I try and get over that. Reading too much into it, maybe. All right, this was a quick one just to add on to my other video. I'm going to try and learn how to do iMovie, and attach this movie to the previous one, so it'll just all be one movie. I'm getting clever. All right, talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.